Hello and welcome to the Daily Climate Show, where we track the changes to our world and investigate some of the potential solutions to the climate crisis. Now, the leader of Plymouth City Council is to step down following a row over the felling of more than 100 trees in the city centre. They were cut down last Tuesday night as part of a plan to regenerate the area. 110 trees were felled before a court injunction was served. Campaigners say that it was done without a proper consultation, and they're calling for the council to drop their bid to have that injunction overturned. Well, I'm joined now by Hugh Janes from the campaign group Save the Trees of Armada Way. He's also chair of Environment Plymouth. Very good afternoon to you. Thanks for talking to us. The council has said that this was all part of a regeneration project designed to transform what they say is this tired and dated city centre route. They also say that the plan includes extensive planting of 169 new trees, which will be more resilient to the urban environment. So why has this tree felling provoked such strength of feeling there?
Well, it's the way, as much as anything, that it was done. There was a consultation process which was put out to the public, which wasn't going to happen until there was pressure from Straw and other environmental groups, including Plymouth Tree Partnership and Environment Plymouth. And eventually we had meetings with the developers, we had meetings with the council, with the services director. And at these meetings, we were led to believe that there was a compromise to be made. We were after keeping all the grade A and grade B trees, although we may have lost some of the grade B trees. But the grade A ones, these were part of the post-war plan that was drawn up. And when Armada Way was built in 1952, this was part of a major redevelopment of the entire city after it was flattened during the war. And the trees, the chestnut trees particularly, which have become the grade A trees, were the main. You can see all the stumps going down in your pictures to the side of the green. Those were all grade A. The majority of those were grade A trees, i.e. over 40 years old. We think they were planted sort of late 50s, early 60s. And we wanted to keep those and incorporate the regeneration scheme through the middle. And this is what we were understood to be working on a compromise towards until the council decided to, under cloak of darkness, to bring in all the heavy machinery and just tear these trees up.
Well, yes, and the reason they say that the work was carried out at night, they say was for reasons of public safety and impact on the city centre, given the size of the machinery. The campaign group did win an injunction to stop the work. How many trees do you think that saved, and what do you want to happen now?
I think the estimate is about 17. It's difficult. Some of the trees were due to be kept. They'd also kept a few back because there were obvious nests. And so the ones where they couldn't see the nests, which are now lying on the ground, were cut down or torn up.
Well, and what do you want to happen now, very briefly?
Well, we'd obviously like to keep with whatever trees we can. We'd like the planting to go ahead as quickly as possible. So the scheme, I mean, there's nothing can be done about the trees that have been felled. Unfortunately, all the carbon capture that was going on with those trees is being released. And what's really sad is to see them lying on the ground and actually starting to bud. And that's a really sad thing. And you think, it's silent in there. All the birds that were nesting in those trees last year now can't. So it's a silent dead zone. And people are appalled. I'm standing there very often just looking at the devastation and talking to people, and they can't believe it. So many people in the city had no idea this was going to happen, as indeed we were all taken by surprise, except the council themselves, who actually knew at 6 o'clock. I mean, a notice went out and the machinery was already being moved onto the site. So this is not something that could have been done. You don't ring up your local DIY shop in the morning and get this kind of machinery there in the afternoon. They must have planned this months ahead and done all the health and safety checks and street closure notices, although we never saw any of these things, but they should have been done, as you said, to protect people. But whatever time you're going to do it, you still need to have ordered all of that machinery, because this was huge stuff that was just tearing large trees up out of the ground and throwing them into large wood chippers. This wasn't something simple.
Hugh James, we appreciate your time this afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, we did ask Plymouth City Council for an interview, but they said it would be inappropriate to comment given the ongoing legal proceedings surrounding the injunction. Now, some of the day's other news stories now, and a rare yet powerful tornado has hit a Los Angeles suburb, ripping off roofs and sending debris into the sky. One person was injured in the storm in Montebello, which had winds of up to 110 miles per hour. It was the strongest tornado to hit the area since March 1983. Farmers in Argentina are being hit by the worst drought for 60 years, which has ravaged production of the country's key crops. In its latest weekly report, the Buenos Aires Grains Exchange says soybean production was down 44% and corn was down 31%. Climate change is causing more frequent and intense heat waves, which speeds up the drying of the soil. Some of the world's largest natural history museums have joined forces to build what they describe as a groundbreaking digital database featuring all the specimens in their collections. 73 organisations, including the Natural History Museum in London, have contributed to the database, which features more than 1 billion objects. The aim is to help scientists and policymakers find solutions to issues such as climate change and biodiversity loss. Now, Colombia, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Ecuador have taken the lead in what the UN is describing as the largest ever initiative to restore degraded rivers, lakes and wetlands. The Freshwater Challenge has been launched at the Water Conference, which is taking place in New York. The UN says a third of the world's wetlands have been lost over the last 50 years, and the aim is to bring back 200,000 miles of rivers and enough wetlands to fill an area the size of India by 2030. Well, I'm joined now by Claire Seaward, who's Global Campaigns Director at WaterAid. Claire Seaward, thanks for talking to us today. Just how important is this initiative? What difference could this Freshwater Challenge make to people, but also to habitats, to nature?
Thank you for having me. It's a really exciting initiative as part of the world's biggest water conference for 45 years. This will obviously have a really important impact for biodiversity. But as you said, people are experiencing climate change right now through either too much or too little water. And WaterAid has actually come to this issue from a really different place, but to the same end, which is that we absolutely need wetlands to be in place as a key way of managing water. Now, if we get it right, what it means is that we can help protect nature and people from things like flooding and the damage of flooding. It can also help to recharge water under the ground, which is being depleted in parts of the world, such as Pakistan and India and Bangladesh. And it's a really important source of water supply for animals, but also people during drought. Now, that's how we get it right. If we get this wrong, not only will we see depletion for nature, but we'll also see disease outbreaks for people. And we're seeing right now a cholera outbreak in 26 countries with 1 billion people at risk because of contaminated water. So the stakes are high and this investment is critical.
The stakes are high, but the project is very ambitious. How do you go about turning things around in these countries? First of all, I think we're seeing there's a real need for strong government leadership, and it's great we have country governments that are stepping up on this right now. One of the things that WaterAid is really keen to see is that we're bringing together the planning for water for multiple uses, water for people, water for nature, water for business use like agriculture and industry. It's only by all of those groups coming together and actually doing proper planning and proper government leadership that we're actually going to see the change we want to see. Now, WaterAid is doing this in some of the countries where we're working already. We are actually bringing together companies in countries like Nigeria and like Mozambique to actually try and replenish waterways such as wetlands for multiple uses. So, for example, in Lagos State, in Nigeria, we're actually working on something called sponge cities, which is how do you actually create water catchments to capture water during flooding to prevent damage to ecosystems and to cities. We're also doing this in Maputo, which is on the front line of things like Cyclone Freddy right now, and actually restoring mangroves, which can actually protect people from flooding and protect wetlands and nature. And this is really why I bring it together. OK, a fascinating subject. I wish we had longer to discuss it, but we are out of time. Claire Seawood, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And that's all from us for today. Thanks for watching.